Hi everyone. Today we are doing, one of the most highly requested videos on the channel, which is the midwinter favorite decks list. So I don't have anything that's really new, and I'm sorry about that if you're looking for new decks. I do have some old tried and true decks that I think as we've all been moving through the end of this year, not just with what's happened this year, but also with what's happening at an astrological level, things feel pretty heavy and intense, and, there's a sense of looking to our cards, not just for wisdom and growth, but also for a sense of understanding and compassion from the decks that we're working with. And so the ones that I have chosen today are decks that really give me a feeling of connectedness to my spiritual path. And that's really what it's been about in choosing these decks. They've been on many other lists, so for those of you who have been following the channel for a long time, you won't be surprised with what's on here. So I'm going to start with the Vinci Enigma Tarot. This deck has really, it's one of those that I kind of really only work with at seasonally or at specific times, but there's something even with the backings that just feels festive. Let's see if I can get that ring light to, there we go. That just feels festive. And Da Vinci's artwork, of course, in tarot form it's like providing another lens with which to interpret card meanings. I don't think if you're new to tarot, this is a deck that you want to work with. I think this is for a seasoned reader who has good understanding of traditional Rider-Waite-Smith meanings. So if you are someone who is comfortable with tarot already, then this is giving you a different lens. And the guidebook is a gem. It's a really, really great guidebook. It provides new perspective, fresh perspective, as well as detailed messages for each of the cards. Some of the names of the traditional tarot cards, especially in the majors, have been changed. So just to let you know there, in case that's going to bother you. Typically that is a really irritating thing for me, as you guys know. But in this case, I'm all right with it because the deck itself is so different, and it's not like working with traditional tarot at all. Even though it still does follow the tarot system, it's not an oracle deck. So this is the Da Vinci Enigma Tarot. I'm not sure if it's still in print. I was very blessed that a client of mine gifted this to me years and years and years ago, and it's a beautiful deck. It's worn really well. The cardstock is just delicious, and the card backings are some of my favorites. They're all, each one is, it's a unique kind of mandala of some of his sacred geometry work, and it's really, really just beautiful to look at on an altar for sure, especially this time of year when we're especially after a year like this, I think we're all wanting to feel festive and be enjoying, something to look forward to with our decorating. So that is the Da Vinci Enigma Tarot. I'm going to call these two out as a pair, even though they're two separate decks. Goddess and Sirens and Gods and Titans. I use these two decks for end of the year readings, and so these decks have been out more for clients. But I've also rediscovered my love of using them personally as weekly draws for the energy of the divine that is walking with us throughout our week. And you can definitely use this as a daily draw deck, or a weekly, or a monthly, even seasonally or yearly. So I'm going to start with Goddess and Sirens and show some of these images. The artwork is beautiful. The guidebooks are, informative and great jumping off points to, discovering and connecting with deity. And so if you're someone who's new, let's say you started your journey on a pagan spiritual path or working with tarot, you want to understand deity a little bit better or discover what faces of deity are working or walking with you at any point in time. These decks are wonderful ways to start connecting with that energy and to, start to get a handle on how the divine speaks with you and walks with you. So this is the Goddess and Sirens deck. They are 2 separate decks, so if you're going to purchase them, just please be aware that you're going to have to purchase them separately. But I don't know. I haven't checked in a while, but last time I purchased these, which was years and years ago, they were very reasonably priced on Amazon. So this is the Gods and Titans deck. So if you're someone who works with polarity and magic, or on your spiritual path, or you're someone who is looking to integrate and incorporate the sacred feminine and the sacred masculine within yourself on your journey, working with deity and aspects of goddesses and gods can assist us in creating that integration on our paths. Of course, we can also look at them as guides, as patrons and patronesses. And there's Odin, speaking of. And so we can, there are different ways in which we can connect with faces of the divine or deity. And these decks kind of give you a jumping off point to figuring that out for yourself and to how you want to work with them as well. Stacy DeMarco in the guidebook gives you some options for connecting with them, I believe, on each card meaning. And so you can play with what feels authentic for you in connecting with the faces of the divine. And as we experience this, again, this period in our lives and with everything that is happening, sometimes being able to connect with guides, new guides or new faces of deity can help us to have a fresh perspective on ourselves and our situations and how we can move through them with grace and compassion. So those 2 are on the list for that reason. The Mary Altero, I have been doing some work with this deck for a client and really rediscovering how much I love this guidebook and how many layers there are to the Mary Altero. I can't recommend this deck enough if you're someone who really likes to sink their teeth into esoteric occult magic with cross-referencing the Bible and symbolism that's included in traditional Rider-Waite-Smith, but also in the Thoth, in the Order of the Golden Dawn, in the Boda system. All of these things in the very esoteric occult aspects of those are referenced in the guidebook and in the artwork that Marie has created. And there's a real sweet power to this deck that's very enjoyable as someone who's been reading for a while to be able to sink your teeth back into and to create a journey with and also course studies with. So if you're someone who's been reading for a while and you're looking for a deck that's going to be in depth and really make you think and question things that you've taken for granted about tarot, about yourself, and even about your spiritual path, then this is the deck for you. So this is the Mary Altero. It's such a popular deck on, in the online communities. So many of you have heard about this deck before, but if you are coming to the channel and you're new to tarot, this is one that as you advance in your work with the cards, you may really feel called to explore. And if you find that that is the case, I would definitely encourage you to. I know it's a little bit of a pricier deck, but it's absolutely 100% worth the investment. And now this is not a deck that you can approach cavalierly. You have to be willing to invest time, energy. You have to make a commitment to this deck. It's like Tarot of Vampires in that way. But if you make that commitment, you will have no end of joy from working with this deck. So this is the Mary Altero by Marie White. Really profoundly beautiful, and has really been such a joy for me to give me something to get lost in when I find that my anxiety or stress levels are high. So if you are someone who benefits from having something to study or to explore in times of anxiety and stress, this is a deck that you will definitely get all the bang for your buck on. Like you will, yeah, you will. It's absolutely worth it. So this is the Mary Altero. Now, Brian Froud's Heart of Fairies Oracle is another one that I've been connecting with, but in a new way. You know, I'll often talk about this deck and talk about how easily it can kick your ass and how the Fae are often quite contrary. And all of those things are definitely true. But this season, I've actually been finding a kind of compassionate voice in this deck in client readings that's caused me to be like, wow, what's going on? So I started doing some personal draws with it over the last 2 weeks, and there's actually been this thread of compassion and gentleness from the Heart of Fairies Oracle. So that's been a very new experience for me with this deck. And this is why it's such a joy if you're a collector and you work with more than just 1 or 2 decks, to keep certain decks in your collection and to actually work with them over the years, because you will find that your relationship with the deck grows and expands and really allows for shifting together as you grow, and the deck and the energies attached with the deck grow as well, and then you come together. There can be new exploration, new understanding, new awarenesses. So this is one of my favorite images in this deck, the Queen of Passage. So yeah, this deck is just such a joy, and I mean, well, not always such a joy, let's be honest. Sometimes she is a lot of bad words in that she's honest and confronting. And as I said, the Fae are not unconditionally loving beings. They hold the whole spectrum of emotion just like humans. So you know, sometimes they're going to give you messages that you don't really want to deal with or acknowledge or know about yourself, but it's necessary to hear. This isn't an unkind deck. It's just a mischievous deck. But however, for this December 2020, it's actually been very much a joyful, gentle deck, surprisingly so. All right, now the Icys Oracle. This is on every list every time, I know, and Tarot of Vampires as well, although I'm not going to show Tarot of Vampires in this list. However, I have been, as always, working with that. But I want to talk about the Icys Oracle in regards to, again, this time in the world that we're living in, and really needing to feel a sense of support, but also guidance and empowerment. In this case, if you're also looking for empowerment on your path, then the Icys Oracle is really going to give you both of that. So if you're looking for not just a sense of compassion and understanding, in which case I would recommend the Kuan Yin Oracle by Alana Fairchild, but if you're also looking for this sense of empowerment, of stepping into your power and your sense of self and who you are, then this deck is going to give you that. It's going to give you empowering ways in which to open up to your truth and your gifts. And you're doing this all through the myth of the goddess Icys and through the energy of the goddess Icys, which, as I always say, Alana and Jimmy captured to perfection in this deck. I've never had another deck that deals with the energy of Icys, or in which Icys shows up in the deck, that's been spot on with how I experience Icys. And this deck is spot on with how I experience the goddess. And as some of you may know, she is my patroness. I am a priestess in her name, in my own opinion. And this deck is just absolutely spot on. And it's such a blessing to have this deck in my collection. And I've really felt over the last week or so compelled to pull from her for myself daily, and have had just really beautiful experiences again. And it's so exciting because, like, you'll go through times where these ride or die decks, you take them for granted a little bit, you know, like they're always there, and then you want to do something new, so you want to buy a new deck and play with a new deck, or you want to work with a different energy or a different feel in a deck, and then you come back to a deck that's meant so much to you, and you're just kind of overwhelmed with a sense of gratitude for the fact that the energies that are attached to the deck chose to connect with you in this way and through such lovely artwork and symbolism. So the Icys Oracle by Alana Fairchild and Jimmy Manton is on my list this year, as always, but especially because that sense of empowerment married to compassion and awareness and understanding has felt really essential for me personally moving through this time. So the last two decks are newer for me, and I am going to just say before I show this one, this is the Witch's Tarot. It's a majors only deck with a few additional cards focused on a witch-centric spiritual path. There is nudity in almost every image in this deck, so if you are uncomfortable with that, this might be a time when you want to click off of the video, completely understandable. But this deck is a self-produced deck. I will try to remember to put the link in the description box below because I know a bunch of you are going to ask me about that. But I don't typically like majors only decks. If I want tarot, I want all of tarot, and I don't like pip decks really either. So when I had a reading, and my wonderful reader, she used this deck for me, and it was very, very profound reading, and there was a lot of wisdom that I was able to access for myself from that reading, but also from this deck that she used in the reading. And so I decided to purchase it, even though it was majors only. I love the fact that it's self-produced. The cardstock is like my favorite cardstock on earth. It's that beautiful, like matte kind of, it's not like velour, but it's got that kind of feel to it, and it is just gorgeous. The backings are absolutely beautiful. I love having this deck out on my altar. And I just feel like it's a real celebration through photography and photographic manipulation, obviously, of the goddess, and the goddess as it dwells within each and every one of us, those who identify as witches and follow her path. It's just artwork that's right up my alley, as many of you know, and I really, really enjoy it. I'm a really big fan of this deck, and have been just... I've actually been using it in the 2021 yearly Outlook readings on the Etsy shop because it's a beautiful deck to get big picture messages for in a very concise manner, but with very provoking photography that gives you lots of opportunity to journal. Now, he does include a little white book with the deck itself. I would definitely encourage you to also reference and like sit with the card imagery for yourself and journal around that, because I think you're going to get a lot out of spending time with these images. And this is actually one of my favorite images in the deck. It's the Magician. So that's the Witch's Tarot. I cannot remember the artist that created it, but as I said, I will do my best to remember to put the link in the description box below. The last deck today, I guess we did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Oracle, 1, 2, 3, 4 Oracle, 1, 2, 3, 4 Tarot. So we're kind of evenly matched here with Tarot and Oracle for this season for me in 2020. The Darkwood Tarot, as you guys know, I think one of my last videos was unboxing this deck, and I am obsessed with this deck. If you are a beginner to tarot, you can still work with this deck. The guidebook gives you a plethora of wisdom, traditional Rider-Waite-Smith meanings, but also, meanings that are developed just for this deck. The artwork is absolutely beautiful. It's a witch's journey through the dark wood, and you really get a sense of that, it's you taking the journey. You really feel like the witch in this deck, and it's just such a joy to connect with this. This deck is very chatty. She loves to be in client readings. She loves to, she's very talkative. She's very talkative, and she works very well with the Earthbound Oracle. For those of you who like that deck as a clarifier as much as I do, this is one of my favorite images in the deck, guys. Isn't it awesome? But anyhow, I am so in love with this deck. I mean, I love tarot so much for so many reasons, but when you find a deck like this that's just such a joy, you just feel so blessed. You feel so blessed to be able to work with it, and this is no different. If you find yourself drawn to the imagery at all, I would definitely recommend purchasing it, because you're going to get... I love this Two of Wands as well, guys. Look at that one. I mean, isn't she just gorgeous? Look at her. So, yeah, the Darkwood Tarot is, yeah, absolutely stunning. I love her so much, I've already edged her in black. So if you do purchase this deck, it's not going to come with the black. As you can tell, my Sharpie was getting a little dead there, so it's a little fainter on that side. But if you do happen to purchase this deck, it won't come with the black edges. You'll need to edge them yourself, just so that you know that. But that is my list, guys. I'm not a super crazy list this year. I think there's a sense within all of us of kind of taking things back to basics insofar as, you know, what sustains us on our spiritual path. And if you are finding that you're struggling at this time, if you're feeling a sense of futility or alone, then I would highly recommend working with the Icys Oracle to help you feel connected to your spiritual path and empowered as a person in the world. So much of this time is about us opening up to who we truly are, refusing to stay small, and letting our light, the light within us, shine as brightly as possible, even through times of great adversity. And of course, we just had the solstice on Monday, and with that, and that energy of the dying God, that beauty of the release of an incarnation to serve the purpose of growth, the planting of that seed, and the remembrance of that flame that stays lit, that doesn't die out, even in the darkest and longest night. Reconnecting with that can help us to stay encouraged on our path and not to give in to, again, a sense of futility or depression through a time in which we may feel isolated and as if we're never going to get out of this energy. So if you happen to find that you are feeling that way at this time, some of these decks may help you to be able to shift your perspective. And I hope that this list helps you if you're feeling that way. Please know I am sending you all so much love and so many blessings, as always. It is such a joy to connect with you in this way. I know over the last month I haven't posted that much on the channel. It's just been, there's been some illness in the family and things coming up, and so I haven't been able to post as much, but I'm hoping in the new year to get a lot more out there for you all for content. So, once again, so much love to each and every one of you. Many blessings. Happy solstice, happy holidays if you choose to celebrate holidays around this time of year, and I will see you in the next video.